Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. Today we'll be speaking about a very important development in the Arab world. This very important summit that has been taking place for the past few days, the China-Arab Summit and the Gulf Arab Summit, the first of their kinds in the Middle East. Yesterday was the Arab Summit, or the China-Arab Summit that took place in Saudi Arabia, where the conclusion came out after a long summit that saw lots of participation from all the Arab leaders, almost all of the Arab leaders, of course, plus the Chinese president. At the end of the summit, the conclusion, or the draft resolution said that the Chinese Arab Gulf Summit constitute a new starting point, or a turning point, between the Arab countries and China. And the closing statement said that the Arab-Chinese Summit emphasized the necessity of preserving the unity, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria, Libya and Yemen, rejecting foreign interference and confronting terrorist organizations. Also, they emphasized the joint keenness to strengthen the strategic partnership between the Arab countries and China, based on comprehensive cooperation and common development for a better future. That is the base of a new horizon of cooperation between the Arab world and China from one side, and definitely the Gulf states with China. We have seen lots and lots of meetings and sidelines meetings between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who attended the Arab Summit and addressed it with a speech of Egypt's vision for a new horizon of cooperation between China, or how to put the base for new starting points of cooperation between China and the Arab world. On the sidelines, the President and the Arab leaders at large held sidelines meetings, very important one that had certain significance. We'll be speaking about that in our episode today. Before we start with our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry said that a trio action mechanism among Egypt, Jordan and Iraq aimed at enhancing integration and unity stances on the importance of joint Arab action in facing current international challenges. Shoukry made these remarks in a press conference along with Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman al-Safadi and Iraq's Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein in the Jordanian capital Amman. The minister retweeted Egypt's full support for the Iraqi sovereignty, territorial integrity and stability being part and parcel of the Arab national security. He hailed the stances of Iraq and Jordan regarding the Egyptian water security. Meanwhile, al-Safadi hinted at continued coordination among the three parties for carrying out joint projects and tackling all Arab issues of common concern, the forefront of which is the Palestinian cause. Such remarks were echoed by the Iraqi minister, who said the mechanism would help boost cooperation among the three countries in pivotal fields, atop of which is energy and electronic linkage. Egypt's top diplomat has earlier held talks with his Jordanian and Iraqi counterparts on the progress of work at cooperation projects among the three countries in many fields. The meeting touched upon regional and international issues, where the three top diplomats agreed on continuing consultations on current challenges and enhancing the region's security, stability and peace. The meeting came in line with instructions by the political leadership of the three states for boosting common interests. Egypt expressed on Friday its deep concern about the increasing violence in the occupied territories targeting the Palestinian people. The latest was the martyrdom of 3 Palestinians in the city of Jenin at dawn on Thursday. Egypt stated in a statement issued by the Foreign Ministry on Friday that the current year has witnessed the largest number of Palestinian martyrs in many years, as it exceeded 200 martyrs. The statement warns also of deterioration of the situation towards more violence and bloodshed and the dangerous repercussions of the current escalation on efforts to revive the peace process. Egypt called on the international community to assume their responsibilities towards calming the situation and encouraging the parties to break the current stalemate in the peace process. Israel's Prime Minister-designate Benjamin Netanyahu asked for a 2-week extension in forming a coalition government with his ultra-Orthodox and extreme-right allies days before the initial time frame elapses. The November 1 first election put former Premier Netanyahu in a position to form a stable right-wing government, ending an unprecedented period of political deadlock that forced 5 elections in less than 4 years. Israeli President on November 13th tapped Netanyahu to form a government with the backing of factions representing 64 out of 120 lawmakers in Israel's parliament. Netanyahu's 28-day mandate expires at midnight Sunday, but late Thursday he asked Herzog for more time to finalize deals with 2 parties. By law, the president can grant up to 14 additional days for negotiations. For the 9th time, Lebanon's divided parliament failed to elect a new president. Only 105 of parliament's 128 lawmakers showed up for the vote, and as many as of them spoiled their ballots. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri retreated calls for dialogue among lawmakers to find a consensus candidate to prevent the process dragging on for months. The Lebanese parliament will convene for the 10th attempt to elect a president on December 15th.
Right, welcome back, and to highlight the Arab-China or the China-Arab summit that is taking place in Saudi Arabia and just concluded yesterday. We have with us over the phone His Excellency Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon, madam.
The Arab-China summit and also the Gulf Arab summit, which took place consecutively yesterday and today, and you're reading to their significance being held at the very first time, or for the very first time, here in the Middle East at this span of Arab participation.
Well, I guess it's a welcome development from an Arab point of view as well as an Egyptian standpoint. Relations with China for most Arab countries have been friendly, have been based on certain principles. The most significant has been the respect of the sovereignty and independence of the parties concerned, whether we are speaking about China not interfering in Arab affairs, nor the Arab countries interfering one way or another in Chinese affairs. And I guess, as I said, it's a welcome development that opens up many vistas for cooperation with China that would have a beneficial impact on the development programs of Arab countries, whether we are speaking about the Saudi Vision 2030, as well as the Egyptian Sustainable Development Plan, Vision 2030. So I guess it benefits the summit, whether we are speaking about the Gulf Chinese Summit or the Arab Chinese Summit yesterday. I guess they would benefit the interests of all the parties concerned. On the other hand, this summit has taken place in the context of international tensions, as well as the latest developments in the international scene in the light of the war in Ukraine and the accompanying polarization internationally. So as I said earlier, madam, it's a welcome development. It opens up many opportunities for the Arab side. And of course, there are some areas where cooperation between the parties would be central. And by this, I refer to energy. China, of course, consumes a lot of oil. And I guess the Gulf oil producing countries, namely Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, are major exporters of oil to the Chinese markets.
Your Excellency, yes, we'll be speaking about this economic side of the aspect because it has lots and lots of aspects here. But let me here take it from the closing statements of both sides, or both the host and definitely the president of China, where they spoke about deepening relations within the framework of comprehensive strategic partnership. And we're speaking about a big power, a big economic and political power. And we're speaking also a big bloc, the Arab world at large, and definitely big players in the region: Saudi Arabia, United Arab, definitely Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and all those, all the Arab countries participating. If we speak about such a strategic partnership between the Arab world and China, and we speak from different aspects or angles, how do you view such a strategic partnership between those two sides and the future of such relations?
Well, I personally believe that the use of word strategic here in describing the relations between China and the Arab world, the use of word strategy here, I guess it stands for comprehensive cooperation. Comprehensive cooperation in most fields. But I don't interpret it as meaning strategic as is usually the term is used. 2 days ago, Saudi Arabia and China signed an agreement on a comprehensive strategic partnership. This strategic partnership covers all, or almost all, cooperate in all fields: economic, investment, trade, energy, artificial intelligence, digitization. So that this agreement or this partnership covers for the future cooperation among China and the Arab world in almost all fields. And this is my interpretation, madam, of strategic partnership between the parties concerned.
Definitely, Your Excellency, there has been lots and lots of issues and files that were on the agenda of the summit, particularly some of the regional and international developments. And both sides have reiterated their support for the point of view of the other. And that was very much obvious in the closing statements or the closing statements of the summit. So I guess definitely remains to be seen how the strategic partnership will unfold. If we speak about the sidelines meetings that took place between some of the Arab leaders and the Chinese president with some of the Arab leaders, particularly the meeting of President Sisi with the Chinese president and with the Saudi Crown Prince.
Well, these kinds of summits usually give rise to bilateral meetings among the heads of state participating in these summits. In this framework, we have seen many tete-a-tete between the Chinese president, President Xi Jinping, and
the Iraqi Prime Minister, as seen here in the video.
and Arab leaders. You refer to the meeting, the bilateral meeting between the Chinese president and President Sisi,
Yes.
As well as the meeting of President Sisi with some Arab leaders, the Tunisian president, the Prime Minister of Iraq, with the meeting of President Sisi with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. So these summits really are a good, do present good opportunities for the leaders participating leaders to get together and discuss, whether they discuss bilateral issues or international questions, regional questions of mutual concern. So I guess the meeting yesterday, not only the summit, but the meeting yesterday proved that there is almost an identity of views between China and the other and Arab countries on a host of questions that do touch on national Arab security, the situation in Libya, in Yemen, Palestine, in the Gulf. So I guess the summit has proved that relations between China and the Arab world, particularly Egypt and the Gulf countries, are on the right track, and they will develop into full cooperation, madam.
Your Excellency, in his statements or in his speech addressing the China Arab Summit, President Sisi has called on everyone today, everyone in terms of all the area, to consider this summit a new starting point for economic cooperation between the Arab world and China, and said that the Arab-China Summit at Saudi Arabia was a new real starting point for cooperation between both sides. How do you read the statements? How do you read the statements of the President in laying down Egypt's vision towards such relations at this upcoming stage?
Definitely. With the summit in Saudi Arabia yesterday, we are about to enter in a new era in Chinese-Arab relations. A new era that responds to the changes that we have been monitoring in the international system. And both sides do believe that their interests, their national interests, will be best defended and protected by enhancing cooperation among them in many fields. Those fields were mentioned in the final declaration that was released after the summit was concluded yesterday. And it's a very ambitious agenda, in fact. And it augurs well for the Arab countries, madam. The remarks of President Sisi, the speech that President Sisi delivered yesterday before the summit, I found the remarks comprehensive and deep in the sense that Egypt the Egyptian president touched on the most pressing questions facing developing countries. And on the other hand, I guess the remarks cover all questions of interest for the future development plans in the developing countries. And the President Sisi, of course, not only talked about political questions, but also about commercial, financial issues that do have an impact. And regrettably, they do have a negative impact on the prospects of development, sustainable development in developing countries due to whether the raises in the interest rates in the United States and other central banks of Western countries, the impact of these raises on the indebtedness of developing countries.
Yes.
And President Sisi referred to this thorny question, and he called on international economic and financial institutions as well as donor countries to look into alleviating the burden of the debts in the international context of today.
Yes.
So I believe that the remarks delivered by Egypt's President Sisi yesterday, they were to the point. And I guess I would say that they provide a blueprint for developing countries in discussions with the donor countries and with the international institutions like the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us over the phone and for your insight here. Before we continue on with our discussion, first we'll have the Adhan. We'll come back to a report and then we'll continue our discussion.